Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am so excited today. I always love when I have a fellow Wolfpack here with me. And so I've got Megan ELLISOR here with me. She's the director of social media at NC State. And we were just talking about it. What a time. What a time to be at NC State right
Yep.
now.
Best week ever. Yeah.
Best week. Best 3 weeks. I think
Yep.
like ACC championship, and it's been a journey. But Megan, thank you first of all for being here in this crazy time.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, Danielle.
Yeah,
Um, Always excited to talk to a fellow member of the Wolfpack, but
yeah,
especially during this time, I
yeah.
feel like we have a special bond over over basketball. Yeah, so I work at NC State as the director of social media. I've
Yeah.
been an employee with NC State for 7 years now.
Okay.
Um, but I also went to NC State, so I have
Yeah.
like a really deep connection to the university. I studied communication, graduated in 2016.
Okay.
And while I was a student, for all 4 years, I worked for The Technician, which is the student
Okay. Yep.
newspaper. And that was such a great, like, hands-on learning
Yeah.
experience. Like, I can't recommend that enough to anyone trying to get
Yeah.
into the media field in any capacity,
Yeah.
because we were literally producing a paper Monday through Friday.
Absolutely.
And it was tough work, but I felt so prepared going into what ended up being my first full-time job, which was
Yeah.
as a social media specialist at NC State. So in that role, I was running the Alumni Association's social
Wow.
media accounts. And that was my first like big girl job. I had some internships right out of college, but my first full-time job was back with NC State.
Okay.
And from there, I've been really fortunate to grow with
Yeah.
the university. So my next position after that, I was assistant director of social media.
Okay.
And in that position, I was directly managing the at NC State
Yeah.
accounts. And so I was the person hitting send behind all the Instagram posts and all the tweets. And
Yeah.
that was such a fun job. That was the role I was in during the pandemic.
Okay.
So there was obviously a lot going on in the
Lot.
world, and
Yeah.
a lot that we had to adapt to during that time. And then most recently, I get my years mixed up after
I
being here
know.
for so long, but I want to say 2021
Okay.
is when I became director
Okay.
of social media. And maybe it's 22. Years are all blurring.
I
But
know.
so
I'm
I,
like, it's like 20 to 22. I'm like, did those 2 years actually happen? I'm like,
yeah,
what happened in those two
it's
years?
all, especially because I've been here since college. I'm
Yeah.
like, my memories of me at NC State as a student and
Yeah.
me as an employee, like
Yeah. Blur
they're all
together.
blurred.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now I'm the director of social media,
Okay.
which is so much fun. I love my job, and
Yeah.
I know not everyone can say that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can tell you a little bit more about my team if
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I would
something
love
like
to know. I mean, this hub you is essentially that NC
Mhm.
State has 11-person team. Who are the people that make up that 11-person team, and
Mhm.
what do you guys focus on?
Yeah, so we have a really interesting model called the Social Media Hub.
Yeah.
I can't take credit for for the concept because I was hired into the hub.
Okay.
But I have to give a shout out to Luis Chacon and Drew Sykes and Nick Love, who were all at some point or another have been my supervisor
Yeah.
in this time at the Social Media Hub. And our setup is that every person on my team runs a social account for a different
Okay.
college or unit at NC State.
Okay.
So we have Molly Donovan, who runs the main NC State accounts.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yes.
Those accounts are so good because of all the work she puts in.
Yeah.
And we also have 10 other amazing social media specialists on my
Okay.
team who run accounts ranging from the admissions account
Okay.
to the College of Sciences, College of Agriculture and Life
Wow.
Sciences. So not every college is on my team. Some colleges have their social specialist housed within the college.
Okay.
But if the social person sits on my team, they dually report to me and to their
Okay.
college's communications director.
Yep.
So they kind of sit on two teams.
Okay.
The benefit being that as a team of social media specialists, we can all collaborate and
Yeah.
work together on things that are like very specific to social media that
Yeah.
someone who's in like more of a director of communications or marketing role might not be as
Yeah.
in tune with necessarily. Because in social media, we're always having to adapt
Totally.
and figure out what's trending and
Yeah.
roll with the punches.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thing that I think really benefits my team is like
Yeah.
the collaboration that we have.
I think I say it all the time. I'm like, working in social media, you don't understand how when people say it changes daily, like
Mhm.
it truly changes
Yeah.
on a daily basis of different functionalities, whether the platform changes, what certain things look like when you go post something, like it changes on a daily basis and it doesn't stop. It never stops.
It it really never stops, which is
Yeah.
one of the things I love about it. I mean, I
Oh,
think it's
100%.
never boring, and I can't imagine having a having a boring job. So, keeps me on my toes.
Yes, yes. I just want to get into, first of all, when we're talking about this educational space and running social media for a university, some people might not think that this is a different job than doing social media for a corporate company. But when you're talking about you're running individual accounts
Mhm.
for the individual colleges, what is the importance of a university like NC State having a strong social media
Mhm.
presence in the first place? What does that mean?
I think a strong social media presence is it serves the function almost of like a never-ending scrapbook or a
Interesting.
never-ending yearbook. And I think that I feel really lucky to work for a university in this social media space because we have such an engaged audience
Yeah.
already. Like our students, our alumni
Yeah.
are passionate about this place. And that is a privilege that not all social media managers have. Sometimes
Yeah.
you're trying to figure out like if you're working for a CPG company, it's like, how do I get someone to care about my like
Absolutely.
random company? And it's like
Yeah.
we have such a benefit here of having a physical presence
Yeah.
of all of these students um, who are getting the education of a lifetime
Yeah.
and having right now, especially with March Madness, the
Yeah.
experience of a lifetime on campus. Um, and I think that is one of the major benefits of social media for a university. It's really like it's storytelling, but it's accessible and it's like
Yeah.
feet on the ground. And um, I think having a social media connection with your audience, like
Yeah.
just those interactions that even we have in the DMs or in the comment
Yeah.
section, like it's small maybe to us because we do it every day,
Yep.
but to the people on the receiving end, it's like, well, now I feel like a little special because
Yeah.
NC State is engaging with me.
Yeah. I just want to say that I can't shout out this city enough because I think as we're talking about the interaction that alumni have or just people who live in Raleigh, I was at Carolina Hurricanes game
Mhm.
when they beat Duke in
Oh
the
yeah.
ACC championship, and everybody just starts going Wolf
Hmm.
Pack. It was, as an NC State student and alumni, I was like so happy. I was
Yeah.
standing on my
Oh,
feet. We were all doing it, but it's so incredible that we're in a professional hockey arena and we're doing
yeah.
Wolfpack and just completely cheering for a different team. But
Yeah.
it's there's such strong connections with this city, and that's what I love about this place.
It could like bring you to tears. Like just
Yeah,
the emotion over the past week of like seeing NC State fulfill this
yeah,
kind of like I think as fans, I don't know if you felt this way as a student, like it sometimes felt like I'm like embarrassed is not the right word at all, but like
yeah.
it always felt like there was kind of a monkey in our back of like
It's the
when are you
whole little
gonna
brother, big brother
yeah.
kind of thing. Yeah,
And so there's like definitely been a big release of
yeah.
feeling like justified, satisfied, just really
Yeah,
proud,
yeah.
I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to get into the content you guys create on a daily basis, and just in terms of a lot of what you guys are posting has to do with the students who are at NC State. And
Mhm.
so how do you, when you're creating the strategies for all these different accounts, do you foster that student connection
Mhm.
and speaking to students? How do
Mhm.
you guys do that?
Yeah, so that is a really great segue for me to talk about our student creator program.
Yeah.
So one of the people on my team who I didn't get to speak about earlier, her name is Victoria Bliss, and she manages our newly founded student creator
Okay.
program, which is made up of 8 students at the moment. And those students are from majors all across campus.
Okay.
And really, we identified this need to have more faces on our social accounts.
Okay.
And so previously, years ago, when I first started, brands on social media were very much faceless. You kind
Yeah.
of like, obviously, you knew someone was running the account, but
Yeah.
you had no real like if you looked at an Instagram feed, it was
Yeah.
beautiful pictures of campus,
Yep.
which made sense for the time. And I still love that aesthetic.
Yeah.
Um, but with Instagram Reels and TikTok, we've really
Yeah.
had to adapt to have just more faces on
Yeah.
our account, and that makes it more relatable, I think, to prospective students as well.
Okay.
Um, and so with that, we were really fortunate to have the student creator program funded, and yes, they serve as the faces of our account, but I
Yeah.
think one of the other major reasons that we wanted to start this was to have them kind of as a focus group,
Okay.
so that they could tell us like, okay, you as students, like, what are you seeing out on campus every
Yeah.
day? Because I'm in my office. I'm not
Yes,
able to go out on
totally.
campus as much as you are. And so like what's painted at the free expression tunnel right now?
Yeah.
Like, is there,
DJ.
yeah, that is literally what's painted right now. It's
Yeah.
DJ Burns. Or is there like a few years ago we did a story about someone who was wearing a green cloak to campus every day, and that was just like a fun, like,
Yeah.
random thing that we wouldn't have
Yeah.
known if the students weren't on the ground like that. And so I think that's one of the biggest new pieces that we have over the past, I guess this started in August, the student creator program. But having that direct connection to students is so essential for us. And I
Yeah.
think that it's going to be different for every industry, but for us, like, students are our primary
Yeah.
audience especially on Instagram.
Totally.
And so we want their voices to be a part of that content creation
Yeah.
process.
I preach so much in my daily job too of when you see us at trade shows or you put our faces out there, nothing gets more engagement than those pieces because to your point, to the point you were just making, seeing faces, it's that connection. It's funny to say, but it's that human connection that you're seeing that and you're like, yep, like, or
Mhm.
whatever kind of engagement. But that's the stuff that people just love to see
Yeah.
because they're able to connect with it more. And
Or students like see their friends and they're like, oh my gosh, you're famous.
yes,
Like, you've
yes.
made it. And yeah, it's that is what the difference maker is, right? Like with a graphic, it's
Yeah,
like, okay, that's a beautiful graphic, but I don't feel connected to that.
yeah. You
And
kind
when
of just want to scroll right past it in
yeah,
that busy feed that you see on LinkedIn or something else. You kind of just are going right past it.
yeah, yeah, it's been really crazy to see how, like, obviously we're talking about Instagram Reels has really caught up the past couple of years, but I think
Yeah.
like all of this kind of leads back to TikTok and how TikTok has
Yeah.
changed
Oh
the whole
God.
social media game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it it truly blew things up. Like it blew social media to a different proportion.
mhm.
Because I think not only we're thinking about creating differently, but we're also like we can go and post this video here. We can go do something else different here. Like it's opened our minds a little bit to social differently.
Yeah.
While we're on the continuing the topic of content creation and what you guys do for strategy purposes, when we talk about big campaigns from a university perspective and these big movements,
Mhm.
how long do those things take to get created? How long, like, what does that creation process look like?
Well, I think it really depends what it is, because there are certain times where things do happen overnight, and
Oh, really? Okay.
well, and part of that is like it really depends what it is. So my
Yeah.
team can be really scrappy and can
Okay.
be really, like, turning things around really fast. Um, but if it's a larger campaign that involves more than just the social team,
Yeah.
then that requires quite a bit more planning.
Okay.
So if we're talking about something like our national ad campaign, like
Yeah.
the commercial that runs during the football games, that is a much larger team.
Yeah.
And my team certainly has a seat at the table during those conversations,
Okay.
and is involved in how that will play out on social media.
Yeah.
But in terms of social media specific campaigns, we're turning them out fast.
I love it.
And I think that's what I really like about social, is that, like, especially with how things have evolved with TikTok, I think
Yeah.
we've gotten to a place where we're less worried about being polished, and we're
100%.
more okay with, like, the authentic feel of content, where it's like,
Don't let
we filmed this today
Yeah.
and it's timely, and so we're going to put it out now while it's timely, rather than like trying
100%.
to over edit it to
Yeah.
place that's like,
Yeah, don't let perfect be the enemy of the good. And
exactly.
just, I think perfectionism lives in all of us in some
Hmm.
sort of way, but I totally hear you because I'm like, I'm going to sit here and edit this for 8 hours. I'm like, I can't look at this anymore. And at some point, you're going to be like, it's got to be good enough to
Yeah.
go. It's got to be. And it's
Yeah.
just,
Done is better than perfect sometimes.
yes, yes. I'm like, I can't see anymore.
Hmm.
I am losing vision. Um, but I love to hear how scrappy you guys are and that you're able to do that. And I think one that just is a testament to the team you guys have, but also like you just get shit done. Excuse my language, but I love that. And so you don't let things stop you, and you guys keep going, which I so
Hmm.
appreciate because I think like we've been talking about perfection, and we let some things just kind of stop us from
Hmm.
hitting that publish button.
Well, and that's something that I feel really lucky that we have this culture at NC State where it's like, if you want to do something, like go out and do it.
Think and
And
do.
yeah, literally think and do.
Think and do.
um, but it really is like, I think I've gotten so much support in my time here of like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
Go do it,
go do it.
and we'll publish it.
Yeah.
Um, whereas I think there's a lot more red tape
Okay.
other places in terms of like trying to
Yeah.
be overly
Yeah.
managing the brand. And I think we have gotten a lot of flexibility from our
That's
leadership.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I was just about to ask, is there like when you're getting ready to post, is there a flow chart in terms of NC State's brand of, yes, this hits the marks, yes, go, or hold on, stop. We got to go around the
Yeah.
flow chart just a little bit more just to see if is there anything you guys stop and think about first before you post in terms of living up to NC State's brand presence and,
Yeah, we definitely have all those kind of considerations in
okay,
mind. I wouldn't say we have like a
stoppers.
literal like chart of like
Yeah.
check, check, check.
Yeah.
But it's everything from like, how's the grammar on this post, the nitty gritty, to does this reflect
Yeah.
NC State in the way that we want it to be reflected?
Yeah.
I think we toe the line in a good way of incorporating humor into our content.
I love it.
Um, but we do always have to do kind of a gut check of like, okay, is
Yeah.
this
Is it too far?
funny haha, or is this like funny like we've crossed a line and we're gonna hurt some people's feelings?
Yeah.
Um, so there, a lot of it, like a lot of social media is vibes and gut
Okay.
checks and
Okay.
knowing what is going on in the rest of the world too. When
Yeah.
you're about to
Yeah.
publish something, like how is this going to reflect based on everything else that people are
Yeah.
talking about, thinking about, and it is it's a science, but it's also an art. I think you
100%.
can't just you the data is so important, but it's
Yeah.
also like you can't just entirely rely on data.
Yeah.
There's so much else happening with how social media fits into the overall conversation
Yeah.
in the world that you like need to consider, not just like will this perform well, but
Yeah.
like is it the right time for this?
Yeah.
Um and so I think that's where I like
It's a
it's hard
tricky
to
line.
articulate
Yeah.
sometimes exactly, because like a checklist would be so nice. I love a checklist,
Oh God, yeah.
but it's also like sometimes you just have
Yeah.
to know, based on everything else going on in the world, what questions to ask
Yep.
of yourself before you
Yep.
hit publish.
I think I love that you brought up the what is going on in the world because I think when you get very internal faced, you sometimes don't like think about externally and like maybe this isn't the right time to go when there are some bigger things happening and it's just not the right time and maybe there's another message that needs to go out instead. So I love that you brought that up because I think it's a tricky line to walk, especially in social media, that you want to make sure that you're conscious of everything that's
Mm-hmm.
happening, but at the same time, you're like, we gotta go. We still gotta go put something out.
Yeah.
So I so appreciate that you made that point.
But there have definitely been examples of times in my tenure here where we've had content scheduled and something big has happened in the world.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's related to a negative situation where we're like, we can't be out here like promoting NC State when
Yeah.
the community is dealing with XYZ problem.
Yep.
And so we'll step back when we need to and be like,
Yeah.
okay, this is not, we need to give space to other people. And so we are going to be quiet for the day.
Yeah.
So that other people have their space on the internet
Yep.
because their thing is more important.
I love that. I love that. Um, I want to get to your team and how your team works, and being an 11-person team, like that's a big team to for you one to
Mhm.
manage over, but also at the same time everybody owning a platform, or not a platform, a profile.
Mhm.
How do you foster creativity and kind of make sure that everybody's feeling supported at the
Mhm.
same time?
Yeah, an 11-person team is a big
It's a
team.
big
It's the
team.
biggest we've ever been. I think when I started, there were 6 of us.
Wow.
Um, and so
And
we've grown
that's
a
still a
ton,
big
and that's
team.
still a big team. Um, and yeah, I think it is a bit of a different setup with everyone running different
Yeah.
accounts. And so one thing that I really stress for all of my team members is, yes, I want them to come onto campus and be with each other.
Yeah.
So be with our social media hub team, but also I really want them to spend time with their college or
Okay.
their unit. So if you're with the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, like
Yeah.
go sit in Winston Hall
Yeah.
and be with your team over there.
Yeah.
That's one important for your colleagues who are also employees, but it's also important because then you're embedded with the students who are
Yeah.
in your college. And I think just looking back on when I first started here, like that was a lot of times when I got the best ideas was sitting out on campus,
Yeah.
being in Tally, just like observing,
Yes.
like how are people interacting?
Yeah.
What are they writing on the whiteboards? Like,
Yeah.
is it finals time? Are they like writing good luck messages? Just being a part of the community, I think is so important to
Yeah.
the creativity process because me sitting in my office all by myself,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get the best
Yeah.
ideas.
Can I just say too, like the library was always my favorite place to walk through, because I'm like, during finals time, I was like,
Mhm.
what chair is everybody sitting in
Yeah.
while they're doing this?
Yeah.
Like, because what's funny enough is how NC State's library is set up. Like, it's truly allows you to, it's a free space, but it was always
Mhm.
so fun for me to see. I'm like, this person's studying in this way for their
Mhm.
finals, or this person kind of needs this attitude
Yeah.
and this mindset to walk in. And so it's always a really fun place to walk around, and see what everybody's mood is for that day based on where they're sitting.
Were you a Hunt library person or
I
Hill?
was,
Okay.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
Hunt. Yeah.
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 Depended on like what I was working on for me because
Yeah.
Hunt has so many windows and so
Yes.
colorful, which is great for like creativity.
Yeah.
But if I need to sit and grind, like I'm gonna go to
Yeah.
Hill and be in the book
Yes.
stacks.
Yeah, it's also one of those things where I'm like, time of day that I was going to be there, because there's certain times of day where it's like, nope, I know I'm not going to be able to find a single place
Yeah.
to be able to sit and do what I need to do. And so it always kind of depended on that as well.
Hmm.
And I want to make sure that I point out too, like, what ways do you guys, we've been talking about trends and creating content, but
Mm.
how do you guys pay attention to the trends out there? How do you
Yeah.
guys track those trends? There are so many that pop up on TikTok on a daily basis, but how do you guys do it and go turn it into
Mm.
NC State's way?
Yeah, so in addition to our student creator program, all of us as social media specialists are also um, pretty actively monitoring our own how we engage with social media content on
Okay.
our own accounts. And so for me, that takes the form of like a saved folder on
I
every
love
social
it.
profile.
I
I
love
have a
it.
saved folder that's like social ideas. And we have a recurring meeting where we'll get together and
Okay.
show off like here's one piece of content that really
Yeah.
inspired me, and here's how I'm going to take that and
Okay.
adapt it to make it work for my account.
Okay.
Um, and it's usually not a one translation because we want to do,
Yeah.
we want to one up whatever that idea was
Yeah.
and not just copy it. Um, but that is kind of an integral part of our um, recurring team meetings is
Okay.
like checking in on content, seeing what we're all seeing. Because that's the other thing too with how TikTok has changed like the social media space is
Yeah.
and it was already like this, but I think it really has been emphasized with TikTok is you have different corners of the internet, and
Oh,
so my corner is
yeah.
nothing like my team members' corners,
Yeah.
and so it's really helpful to know like
Yeah.
okay what's on your internet right now because my
Yeah.
internet is
Different.
exclusively about Taylor Swift like um
I love that. I was just gonna say, I was like, everybody's algorithm is something
yeah
different right now. Yeah.
yeah
And mine, funny enough, right now is like Barstool talking about NC State. So I'm like,
mm-hmm
give respect on the name, thank you. But
yep
it's mine right now is a bunch of I'm a hockey fan, so right now we're Stanley Cup playoffs are about to kick off, so I have a bunch of hockey but I'm like, I've got Taylor Swift,
Yep.
I've got the Kelsey brothers on mine. I'm like, there is something different on my TikTok
Yeah.
every single day.
And sometimes I'm like, I wish I could go back and restart my TikTok because I'm like,
Yes.
I want to have different versions of myself so that it like
Yeah.
shows me different things because
Yes.
I'm not always in a Taylor Swift mode. I want to know what else everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's helpful to have like a
Yeah.
big team to keep up with all of
Yeah.
that.
I love that you point out a save folder too, because I'm like, my saved on TikTok, like that, I've got so many videos in there and I'm
Yeah.
scrolling through constantly. I'm like, what should I take out? What should I
Hmm.
keep in? Like, where are we in all this? And it's a constant clean out too, because you're like, okay, this trend is like gone and
Hmm.
past.
Yeah.
We have hit the expiration date on this one.
Yeah. And that's tough because things move so
It's so
fast and
fast.
some of the videos it's like a really quick turnaround and
Yeah.
other times you're like how am I going to
Yeah.
pull this trend together
Yeah.
like in before it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, rolling with the punches
Yeah,
always.
yeah. I've got the hey brother, go up to your boyfriend and put up your finger and say hey
Hmm.
brother and see what they say back. And I'm like, I don't even know why I like this, but it's funny because every boyfriend knows
Yeah.
the response to it, but I'm like, why is this trending right now?
Yeah.
But it is
I saw someone
trending.
something yesterday where it was like a wife trying to keep like her and her husband were eating McDonald's and she was trying to keep up with how fast he was eating. It's
Yes,
like me eating at the pace of my
I've
husband.
seen these.
And it
The
was just
wife's just like
hilarious. She's like
choking.
struggling. I'm like, that's me. I'm the slowest eater ever. But yeah, it'll be gone tomorrow.
Yeah, yes, it will. Going back to your team and then just you told us you went from 6 to 11. What do you look for when you're building your
Mm.
team? Like what are some things when you're hiring that are
Yeah.
important to you that you look for that is kind of a requirement?
Yeah. So I went through a lot of hiring last year. And so I feel like I have pretty good experience with the hiring
Yeah.
process at this point. One thing that not necessarily that I look for, but is definitely a pro for me when I'm hiring
Yeah.
is someone with a journalism background.
Okay.
And I think as social media specialists, you are storytellers first and
Yeah.
foremost. And knowing how to tell a story,
Okay.
first of all, identify what is a story, because
Yeah.
some people don't necessarily know, like, okay, how do I pick an angle on this? Like, yes, I know I want to talk to this person, but
Yeah.
what's your angle?
Yeah.
Um, and so knowing how to identify a story, how to also like when you think about writing a news article,
Yeah.
you start with a lead, and that lead is something catchy
Totally.
and quick. And how do you adapt that catchiness into social content?
Yeah.
So I always find that a journalism background is works really well for social
Okay.
media. Not it's not necessary, but
But it's
it does stand
super
out to
helpful.
me.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that we've talked about a lot is being adaptable. Um,
Quick
with
on the
quick
toes.
on your toes. You can't be stuck in your ways
Yeah.
because social media is going to change.
Yeah.
But I think really what I've found through all of these searches that I've done is that the most important thing when I'm hiring someone is to identify if they care. If they
Mm,
care about this role in a way that's deeper than just like, I just need a job.
totally.
It is next level in terms of like the content
Okay.
that they are producing because like I said earlier, like a lot of what I've done is because I really had the passion to do it and really wanted to
Yeah.
do it. And I think that that's what I look for in my team is like someone who has that hunger to want
Yeah.
to tell the stories of students and really has that desire to, I mean, you're constantly churning out content as
Oh
a
yeah.
social media specialist. And so like you have to really always be looking for the next thing. The other part of that is that social media is totally teachable. So if I have someone who cares and is willing to learn, like done.
Yeah.
We can figure out your video skills
Yeah.
together. Like ideally you've done some of that before, but also even if you haven't done it professionally, like
Yeah.
you have an iPhone. I had never done a video before I worked here,
Yeah.
and video is not really a big part of social media in 2017.
Yeah.
And I've had to roll with the punches. And I know that if
Yeah.
I hire someone who has a passion, whether that's like for the university or just, the mission of the university, or generally passionate about content creation,
Okay.
then whatever potential gaps they might have in skills
Yeah.
can be fairly easily taught,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's not rocket
No,
science,
it's not.
but it is really
Yeah.
driven by the person who's running the accounts and
Yeah.
how much they care.
Yep.
And I think that just makes a world of difference.
I think all the things you've hit on, we deal with the misconceptions of what people think that you actually do as a social when you work in
Mhm.
social media. And so I think when somebody actually steps into the stage of social media, they're like, wow, this is a lot more. I'm like, you maintain a calendar, you maintain all these things. But I think to your point, like you really have to love it. Like, and it's not just loving social media, it's
Mhm.
to your point, it's loving telling the story
Mhm.
through these different avenues. And
Right.
I think that's the cool thing because you can tell a really powerful story and get it out to the masses really quickly through these avenues. It's just you got to put the effort in, you got to put the work in,
Mhm.
but it makes a difference. Like
Yeah.
that's how you connect with everybody right now, and you got to find the places where you can connect with everybody.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, like it can't just be a passion for social media. Like the
Yeah.
dopamine only lasts for so
Yes.
long. And then the likes are done and
Yeah.
you got to figure out what's the next thing you're going to
Yep.
do.
Yep.
And there's always more that you could do, which is I think what I've sometimes have a hard time with is like how do you like it's hard to feel fully like you've checked every box because it's
Yeah.
always like I could have done a million more pieces of
Yeah.
content on
Yeah.
that, but you
I could have gotten a
have
different
limited time.
shot for this. I could have done
Yeah.
all, yeah, yeah, yeah. Perfectionism. It lives in all of us
Hmm.
social media
Yep.
managers.
Sure does.
That's what I've seen. I'm like the common denominator amongst all of us. I'm like, we're all perfectionists. I'm like, I can't
Hmm.
even lie to anybody. I'm like, we're all that way because we just want things to be picture
Yes.
perfect in these little squares that we post.
Yeah.
We've talked a little bit about this, but how do you balance, the need for creativity, but also staying, okay, this is NC State. This is the think and do. This is
Mhm.
what it's supposed to feel and look like. This is the
Mhm.
tone and voice. How do you guys balance that?
I think we've been really fortunate, kind of like I said earlier, to have support from leadership in
Yeah.
kind of bending some rules,
Okay.
um, because they know that social media is kind of a different beast,
Yeah.
and some of the brand rules that have been developed with print specifically in
Yeah.
mind, they're not always going to work for social. Um, and so we definitely try our best to maintain the visual identity of
Okay.
NC State with some caveats that certain trends require that we bend some of those
Yeah.
rules for the sake of partaking in that trend properly. Um, and so like I said, it's an
Yeah.
art and a science.
Yeah.
But we kind of do like in our own way a cost benefit of like, okay, is
Okay.
us breaking this rule worth us breaking like
Yeah.
worth us getting involved in this trend or being a part of this
Okay.
trend?
Okay.
Um, and so there are certain things where I'm like, I am not willing
Yeah.
to change for that.
The scale is
But
tipping a little farther to one
yeah,
side.
yeah. But and I know that that's a privilege that we have because not every brand is willing
Yeah.
to be flexible in that way. Um, but I think we've hopefully shown that through our social accounts, through partaking in those trends,
Yeah.
it helps our community feel seen. It makes
Mm.
them laugh. It makes
Yeah.
them feel more engaged. And all of that, while it feels small in the moment,
Yeah.
plays into their overall affinity for
Yeah.
the university. And that plays into everything
Yep.
else that the university does.
Yep. I love that you said that social is, the brand tone and voice there is different than other pieces because I'm
Mhm.
I'm dealing with that a little bit myself right now where I'm like, you have to be able to like I work in cybersecurity, so
Mhm.
talking to someone about cybersecurity on LinkedIn is a little harder
Mhm.
than I think everybody would like to think
Yeah.
than you would do in a webinar or something like that. It's you have to get down a little bit more on the human level and be able
Mhm.
to talk to people that way
Right.
because it's not going to be the same as you would talk to them in this venue
Mhm.
or through direct mail or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So I love that you called that out because I want to shout that from the rooftop to my leaders because it's something that I don't think we realize
Mhm.
because it's this own separate beast that we're having to deal with.
Well, and that's something that I think we deal with too is you mentioned cybersecurity. Like NC State
Yeah.
has researchers who know so much
Yeah.
and are so skilled at the very specific thing that they do.
100%.
But adapting that to social media is sometimes
Oh, thank you.
it's not always easy because it's like,
Yes.
I know that you know this, but
Yeah.
like our audience does not know what you're talking about.
Thank you for saying that.
So how do we get your research to look less like
Yeah.
a journal article and
Yeah.
more like a piece that's going to make people stop scrolling?
Yep.
And it's tough with some subjects.
Mm.
There are some subjects that are very visual, and it's really easy
Yes.
to show like what that research is doing.
Yeah.
It's really easy to understand how that's impacting a person's life. But that's I think that's really how we make people stop scrolling and make them
Yeah.
care about it, is like not just like an up here like
Yeah.
potential
Yeah.
thing, like here's how this could literally impact you,
Yeah.
like whether that's self-driving cars or
Yes.
or something else.
Yeah.
But I think bringing it back down to earth a little bit,
Yes.
to connect with the people
Yeah.
who the work is impacting, is how you make some of those more difficult, not difficult, but like just
I'm
you know
picking up
what
what you're putting down.
like,
Yes, I completely understand you.
yeah,
Yeah. It's hard.
and especially for me as someone who does not have a science background, like sometimes it's like way over my head, and I'm
I did not come from a cyber background. I worked in
Yeah.
healthcare for 3 years and then went to cyber, and I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah,
Can someone
like,
please tell me? I'm like, this is not. I'm
tell
like,
me like I'm 5, because
yes, preschool version.
in this world I am 5 years old and I don't know anything.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, I need you to teach me like I am
Mhm.
preschool.
Yeah.
I need the flow charts. I need the pictures. I need everything.
Don't give me the 50-cent words. Like give me the 25-cent words. Yeah.
I might go a little cheaper. I'm like, give me the 5-cent words. Megan, my last question for you is just what inspires you?
Oh gosh. There's so many different ways I could take that question, but I feel like right now we've been talking so much about basketball.
Yeah.
I think inspires me, what's always inspired me in this role, is the students at NC State. And I think college is such a special time in a person's life, such a unique time to like find yourself. And the students who come to NC State have such big aspirations. And that's one of my favorite things, is like talking to our incoming students and then talking to them as they graduate and kind of seeing that evolution.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beautiful thing about working for a university, is like I feel good about what we do.
I love
and
it.
I think that meeting up with the students and hearing what they're passionate about like refuels my passion for the work that we do.
And I know we've been talking so much about it, but it's been so incredible after each win we've had, light or red. And it's amazing to see alumni, current students, whatever the situation is, at the bell tower celebrating these wins. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful community that we're both very proud to be part of in different roles. But it's we've been talking about the best thing in the world to be part of this family. And so I love that you point that out, because it's truly been an incredible place for the community to kind of rally around and to be part of for the last 3 weeks and however many years you've been part of Raleigh or went to NC State, whatever it may be. It's been a magical place to be part of.
Yeah, there's been nothing like it in my time with NC State, and it's special.
Yes, I absolutely love it. But Megan, thank you, first of all, for sitting down and being here with me today in person and walking me through your world and what you and your team are doing on a daily basis. So I so appreciate it. If you guys do not follow Megan, please go give her a follow so you can learn more about what her and her team are doing. But Megan, just thank you for being here.
Thank you. And go Pack.
Yes, go Pack. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.